lack of sleep, and I was starting to get like a little puffy, and you just feel very cared for. And I think that's when I started to see the deeper magic of it was going into that night.
Sure. Do you think that, I mean, obviously what you're doing is wild and, you know, nobody ever really gets, I guess, sleep, but do you think the lack of sleep from day two had an effect on day three, or do you think it didn't?
Um, I think there was definitely a shift that happened at the Klondike lean-to, and it probably was a little bit from just like none of us slept that night. There were headlamps and talking the whole night, but there's no way I'm mad at that at all. Like
Sure.
what we're doing out there, it's an FKT. It's pretty superficial. It's pretty like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do because I think I can. If someone's really out there and needs help, like I would give up any FKT to like help someone. So, but there was definitely a shift because, we didn't sleep, and then we had some miscommunication on the bushwhack from Big Slide to Porter, and we lost some time. But I don't know, like I definitely had a what if day afterwards. You kind of measure up all of these things of like, oh, this could have gone a different way and maybe we would have gotten it. But the truth is we had so many things go our way, and you just can't play that game. You have to try again. Yeah.
That's very wise. That's a lesson learned out there, for sure.
Totally.
So now, Katie, take us through day three from your perspective.
Yeah, so I was at the house just figuring out logistics of when to meet the crew at the base of Cascade when they came down from there. So it was kind of a calmer morning, which was nice. Just to have a little bit of downtime, just figure out some, adjustments in the schedule and things like that. Whiteface and Esther were super cool for Bethany and I to do those together. Those are kind of some of our mountains, and we had a really great discussion about just like pace and pushing and where we're at with the effort. And, we kind of had that discussion of like, the plan was to start out slower than we thought that you should. And now we're kind of getting to the point where it's time to push. And we pushed hard up Esther and Whiteface. We made up, any, lost time on the mud and things like that from day two. And we were going strong, like we said, for Street and Nye as well. We got back, went up Street and Nye with Jason. That was great. What we didn't know was in the meantime, there was a little bit of a logistics snafu where the restock of food for Bethany got forgotten at the house. So everyone kind of arrived at the lodge. They were ready for us to come down from Street and Nye, and they're kind of waiting around, hanging out. And then all of a sudden the realization is, oh no, we don't have food restock. And so Ashley stepped up. She was one of our camp crew, and she cruised back to the house, got the food. In the meantime, the crew was just problem solving. Okay, if she doesn't get back with the food in time, what are we going to do? And they made up an entire plan B without any help from me. I was on trail. I had no idea any of this was going on. They made up an entire plan B. If she doesn't get back in time, we're going to send in an alternate pacer, and someone's going to meet them here at this junction. And so I was super impressed when we got down from Street and Nye. We got Bethany set to go. We sent her out with Jason, and then they explained to me what happened. I couldn't believe just the amount of problem solving that happened. Everybody was fully in the mindset of things go wrong and we're adapting, and, just working together as a team and making it happen. Luckily they got the food back in time, and everything went pretty smoothly, but everybody was ready to step up. I mean, Hannah was geared up to go in as a pacer, and that was never the intention for her to do that. She was just ready to jump in if she had to. So it was, again, really just a beautiful example of just the team stepping up in absolutely any way that they needed to make sure that Bethany could move forward. That was the goal. We were there for her. We were there to make sure that she could make forward progress, and everyone was doing that. So
Very cool. Teamwork makes the dream work, I suppose, in this situation. That's great.
yep,
That's great that
exactly.
everyone is able to, think outside the box and think on their feet, to make it happen. And that's awesome.
Yep.
So So this is high peak number 38 that day. You finished over Marshall. Where did you guys camp that night? Did I miss that?
So we didn't really end up camping that night. The plan was to do a camp the first 2 nights formally, and then just do aid stations from there.
Okay.
So this is where things got really, really chaotic on the logistics front. So Bethany and Jason went in. They started going over the max, and at that point, Kenny drove us all back to the 46 house, we call it, Bethany's house, that we used as kind of, the main station there that everyone was kind of working out of. And then it was just a mad dash to transition everything to the van. So, Hannah was making everyone food, and Sarah and I were packing up the van, and Ashley was trying to help us get stuff together, and everyone's super sleep deprived at this point. And ultimately what needed to happen was we needed to get the crew fed and ready to go, and then pack up an entire everything we need basically for the rest of the effort into the van and drive to the Allen trailhead near Upper Works, which is about an hour and a half from the house. So it was really just a mad dash to get that done. Sarah and I jumped into the van with Kenny, tried to get some sleep in the van as we drove around. You're in a van bouncing around, on back roads and stuff. So that didn't really happen, but we did at least get to shut our eyes and get a little bit of just like downtime, that sort of thing. And we got to the Allen trailhead, and at that point we packed up. It was about, I want to say 1 or 2 a.m. at that point. We packed up just huge backpacks, and then walked in and waited for the team to arrive, so that they could kind of just go off trail, take a little dirt nap if they needed to. We could, get her feet sorted. We had all the medical and just foot care supplies. We had restocked for food. We had water filtered and waiting for them. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Sarah, Sarah King. She was she kind of led our camp crew. She was not supposed to go in and provide aid that night. After the first 2 nights, we had no specific commitment from her and the rest of the camp crew. And, they could have gone home. They could have stuck around and just hung out if they wanted to. If we asked them to do, a few small things, there was some expectation for that. But when Sarah heard that, I was going in sleep deprived at, 1 or 2 in the morning, hiking into the base of Allen, which is about 5 miles, with a big pack on my back by myself, the plan was, she was like, no, I'm coming with you. I want to come help, and she hadn't gotten any sleep at this point really either. But she insisted that she wanted to come in and help me out. And I really appreciated that, because at this point, I was very sleep deprived. So just to have someone there kind of like keeping you sane, as you're hiking in heavy objects, into Allen, was definitely something that was much appreciated. So she deserves all the credit in the world. Only true friends forego sleep and hike into the base of Allen with a 50-pound pack at 2 a.m.
Sure. Isn't Sarah such a lovely person in general? She's a helper. Shout out to Sarah. She did a part of the Northville Placid Trail with me. Great human being all around. Very cool.
No, every time Sarah hugged me, I just felt like she just gave me this beautiful energy to keep going.
Totally.
And she had such a calm, peaceful attitude the whole time. It was amazing. The trail angels were amazing.
That's great. So Bethany, so you start hiking. When you start hiking into Allen, take us through this, because this is kind of like the end for you. So take us through again. We talked about it a little bit before, but take us through how you were feeling now, like on the day as you're approaching Allen.
Yeah. So for me, the physical stuff hit me coming off of the MAC range. That's when I started to feel a little pull in my, I would just describe it as it was, my ankle behind, towards where my shoe was rubbing up. It felt like a bruise, but that might have been the, like Katie's injury that she was talking about. And, but at that point, my body was, starting to feel it. And especially on the downhill, I was grimacing a bit. I was whimpering a little bit. It hurt. My toes hurt, at that point too, going downhill. The uphill still felt good to me, but the downhill, I just, I was not looking forward to. So, I mean, the end for me, though, began off of Marshall, because we got to the summit of Marshall and we were still 24 hours away from the time. And I don't know, I just was doing the math in my, sleep deprived mind. And it seemed more like a Hail Mary to me. So that's when I definitely started to unravel a little bit and lose some motivation. And, Jay and Jason got to see me at my absolute finest, which I'm being very sarcastic about.
I'm sure nobody holds anything against you whatsoever.
No, that's like the absolute beauty of this story. And I think FKTs that actually aren't realized are maybe sometimes the more beautiful ones. And I don't know if I'm spinning that right now for myself, but I don't know. I've gotten a few really cool FKTs, and this one just stands out in a way different way. And it's because of that support. Like, no one was going to give up on me, and no one was going to stop. And like, even when it's near impossible, people still said it, it could be done. And it was just so, I'll never forget that. And I'm so content with it. And those 3 days feel like one day to me. That's what surprised me, quite honestly, was how fast the time went. And it just felt like it ran out very quickly.
Well, I think that's about as beautiful a place to end this story as we could imagine. That's fantastic. And so I know that you guys did this through hike as well as an attempt to raise some awareness for a couple organizations and such. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. Yeah. So this was a big play on the Superhero 46 and why we were doing it. And we wanted to bring awareness towards the Haudenosaunee and, First Nations in the Adirondacks, and land rights, LGBTQIA, pride, also mental health awareness. There's just not a hike that goes by that we don't talk about this. And we need to normalize, all of this more. And I started doing work with She Jumps after the Through Hike. They are an organization that their mission is to get more girls and females outside and in the outdoors. And we did a fundraiser for them, and we've almost raised $2,000 for them. So huge plug to check out that fundraiser. It's still live, and this is to help women and girls access the outdoors, especially if they don't have the financial means to do so. And yeah, we just, like I said, playing off of the superheroes, we need to do more. We need to do as much as we can each day. Pay attention to the news, be alert, be awake. And if you have this platform and people are following what you're doing in the mountains, then advocate, be an advocate. And that's what Katie and I do.
Fantastic. So what's next for the both of you? I imagine you both probably have some plans in the back of your heads, kind of brewing around.
Oh, always. Katie, take it away.
So this was Bethany's big event for the year. My big event is going to be September 10th. I'm running the Shawagunk Ridge Trail 70. So it's a 70-mile ultra trail race. It's going to be my first trail race, actually. Go big or go home, right? So
awesome.
70-miler as my
She's gonna crush it.
Yeah, I've been training hard for it. I'm excited about it. I know it's an unsupported race, so unfortunately it's gonna not involve, the team atmosphere necessarily, but I know that I'm gonna have the whole team cheering for me, back home. So that'll be cool. And I'm gonna be doing that as my fundraiser for 46 Climb. So if you recall, when we did our Unsupported thruhike last year, that was the fundraiser that we were supporting through that effort. 46 Climbs, they